Sorry for not being able to be there today. For our online session, I'd like you to watch this video and try to follow along on your computer at home. You don't necessarily have to replicate the exact project that I'm making here, but I want you to try to apply the three new principles that I'm going to address in this little lesson. The first one is using the vector tools that we went over on Tuesday in a different way. We use them just to create shapes, boxes, lines, symbols. Well, in this case, we're going to use them to create selections and more precisely control tools. Secondly, we're going to take a look at more complex layer operations. Just so you understand, this assignment specification requires you to label 8 things. And so that means that your assignment, at an absolute minimum, because it has to have a title as well, is going to have a background image, 8 layers of labels, and a title. So you're going to have 10 layers at an absolute minimum. If you decide to put lines, background images, anything, you're going to get to 20 to 30 layers very quickly. And so you're going to need to know how to organize those layers. And lastly, we're going to take a quick look at styles. Styles can be cliche, I guess is the best way to do it, but at the same time, it's a great way to take a look at some of the more convenient functionality built into Adobe Photoshop. So let's get started and talk about research first, right? What do you do for this thing? Well, I suggest picking something that you care about. Do something related to a business you'd want to work for, or pick something that you care about, and you'll probably do a better job. I like Godzilla, so I'm going to do one on Godzilla. I started by finding an appropriate background image. I suggest you do something that is open source or Creative Commons license. But in this case, I found this great picture of 3 heroes of the Showa series of Godzilla films. So I'm going to use this, and I'm paying very close attention to resolution. The higher the resolution, within reason, you don't want anything 10,000 wide or something, but the higher the resolution, the easier it's going to be to work with it graphically. It's going to be harder for your computer to open a larger image somewhat, but realistically it's easier to work with in terms of finding room for things. So I do my research, learn about it. Like in this case, you can see here, that guy on the left is what's called King Caesar. He's a little bit more obscure, but one of my favorite Godzilla people. So I kind of learn a little bit, find a good image, and then also do a little research in your design. Like try to find a cool font. 1001 Free Fonts is a nice resource. I found this great font called Kaiju Monster that does look like the type of thing you found on a poster. Also think about, look at work that is similar, that maybe inspires you a little bit. Put together a mood board is not a bad idea. And then set a color palette. So I'm going to use color.adobe.com, and I found this picture of an old sort of kaiju film, and so I'm going to use that to create my palette. There it is. Ooh, that's a funky palette. It's kind of bright, but at the same time, it's it's taken from a film of the era, so it's a very authentic color palette. Okay. And so now, since I have an Adobe account, I could actually sign in and then download it. But I'm going to be lazy, and I'm going to take a screen snapshot of that thing, bonk, and then I'm just going to go to Photoshop, open up that screen snapshot desktop. And that's the quickest possible way. Let's see. Today is, where did that go? Nope. Screen snapshot 10:05 at 10:18 p.m. Where'd it go? Get it together, screenshot. Where are you? And so it should be pretty easy to identify. That's odd. There it is. Okay, and so I open up that screen snapshot. Got all the colors in it. And then I'm just going to take my color picker at the top. And I'm only going to use one of these reds, one of these blues, and I'm going to use 4 of them. I'll also probably use black. So I grab the color, add it, add the swatches, and I'll call it Kaiju Red. Kaiju, I spelled it wrong, whatever. Okay. Cancel. Now, oops, I'm just going to close some of these. That came undocked. I'm going to click on that one. I click on the selector down here. I add that to swatches. I'll call it Kaiju Blue. Keeps opening up all these layers. I'll grab that color. I don't even have to close the color picker here. Add to, and I'll call it Kaiju Yellow. Okay, and that took me not very long. And then last but not least, I'll add the fourth color there. Color picker, add to swatches, and I'll call it Kaiju Orange. Wow, great. And then cancel. I've got them all there. And then I'm going to open up the image I want to use as my background. So there it is. 3 heroes of the kind of 60s era, I think it is, Godzilla films. And now if I go here to my swatches, you're going to see nice and neat are going to be, where are your swatches? This whole thing became undocked, which is really annoying. So I can actually, I'm going to try to dock it. Will it let me dock it again? Jeez, oh Pete. If the interface goes crazy like this, a great thing to do is go to the workspace and just say reset. I'm going to say to essentials, bonk, and then I'll go to window, workspace, and I will reset the essentials. What that does just kind of puts everything where you're used to being at the beginning. Not a bad idea. And then when I go to my swatches, what do I know? Stacked down at the bottom. There it is. If I hover it, Kaiju Red, Kaiju Blue, Kaiju Yellow, and Kaiju Orange. Cool. So first thing is prep. Do some research. Find a cool font maybe. Set a good color palette. Learn about the thing you're creating. Done. Second thing is prep the image that's going to serve as the foundation. I'm going to want more room because I need to put a title. There's not a lot of room up here for that title. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to canvas size. But you might want to, I might want to lighten the background, darken the background, remove things, crop. Use your best judgment. Prep that image that you're going to use in the background and make it easier for yourself later. I intentionally picked a hard one here because I can't put black text over this. There's a lot of dark area. I can't put white over this. There's a lot of white area. And so, but in order to give myself more room, this is kind of a unique trick to this image, but I need more sky. How do I get more sky? Well, I'm going to go here and first I have to go to canvas size and I have to make my image larger, but I don't want the monsters to get larger. I just want the image to get larger. So I lock at the bottom. I get out of inches because Charlemagne died a long time ago. And then I take the height and I say, I'm going to make that height 1300. I'm just going to give myself maybe 200 more pixels at the top to work with. And so now when I put a title, I've got a lot more room for a title. This is just a lot more comfortable. But there's no sky up there, right? That looks weird. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sky that I've got, and this is the type of pixel manipulation. Remember, everything in this class kind of builds. And so think about that anachronisms assignment and what you know about editing pixels. I want to add something up here. And so I'm going to take this sky, I'm going to copy it. Okay, I'm going to paste it. And remember, that's going to make a new layer. You can see that new layer down here on the right. And then I'm going to take that, and remember, I need it to match. So if I were to take that new layer and move it up, it does that kind of it duplicates it. That doesn't really work. Okay, so instead I take this new layer part right here, and move that up. Okay, and I'm going to say edit, transform, and I'm going to flip it horizontally. And the reason is that kind of makes this, not horizontally, flip it vertically, dum-dum. And so I'm going to flip it vertically. And so that way, edit, transform, flip vertically. And so that way it matches. So when I bring this down, come on, thing. There it goes. Now it's kind of giving me that mirrored sky, but it's at least a little bit less noticeable. And if I was really concerned about it, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that new one and I'm just going to merge it down, layer, merge down, pow. And if I'm not happy with that, my title is going to go across there, so it's not a big deal. But I might want to go into, let's say, liquify. And again, this is kind of unique to my project. But just I'm doing it as an example. Oop, that looked too weird. And I'm not going to do long drags here, by the way. I'm just going to do like a little, because it kind of looks odd with things mirrored exactly. And so I'm just going to do like little kind of pushes there. Now, it might, yeah, it still might look a little mirrored, but you get the idea. And my title is going to go over this anyway. Okay, so I'm just kind of playing with the cloud so it just doesn't look like, something twice. All right, and then that's enough for my title, I think. And so I'm going to now crop out some of that extra white. I just kind of ballpark it, in this case. So, yeah, I look at there and say, well, if it's 1100, another 200. Hit the check mark or hit return. And then now I have cropped it. There's still one white pixel at the top, darn it. And so I'm going to undo that crop, and I will crop it again. Because I don't want the one white pixel line at the top. That looks bad. Come on, you thing, where are you? Okay, so there is my crop, and I'm just going to pull that down even into the sky a little bit. Doesn't matter. I just don't want that white line. Bang. Cool. All right, so now I've prepped it. But your prep is going to be a little different. Your research is going to be different. Prepping the background image is going to be different. So let's take a look at our first concept. The first thing is when we were playing with the object tools here, or the paint tool, or the pen tool, I'm sorry, right here, we were, in many ways, we're just putting vectors down. But there's more than one way to put vectors down. So like, for example, when I take the pen tool or I grab the box tool, notice the top, the first thing it's asking me, do I want to shape, a path, or pixels? So pixels means it's like going to render it instantly. It's not even going to be vectors. So that one I'm not really going to explore tremendously, but the path one is the interesting one. Okay, so if I take the box tool here and I say path, notice that those color choices go, because a path is not a normal vector. It's a vector, but let me show you what you can do with it. Is that if I take that path, I'm going to draw it out here. Notice that it's invisible. You can see here I get the same properties. I'm going to close that. Some of you actually did this accidentally. You would draw the pen tool or you would take the box tool and people would raise their hand and say, I can't see it, or it only makes, there's no color. Well, you notice under layers, right behind that, or you can find it under window, is the paths tool or the paths palette. Right? And then if you click on it, like right here, I have that selected. And remember, highlighting it, telling Photoshop the thing you're interested in is really important. So now that's highlighted, take a look on the right. I can make a selection with that path. So I can hit OK. See that? I selected using the path. Okay, I'm going to deselect. Okay, right now. And then again, that path I would grab with the black arrow just like anything else. So I made a selection with a path. I can fill the path, or the really interesting one is I can stroke the path. And when you stroke the path, what it does is it takes any tool in its current settings and it drags it along the outside. So, I'm doing Godzilla, there's a lot of fire and excitement, so maybe what I might want to do is take my Kaiju red color, I'm going to go to the brush tool, and I maybe will pick some kind of cool dynamic brush. And I'm just having fun here. Okay, I'm going to pick a cool dynamic brush. I'm going to make sure that it is red, which it is. And now when I go to that work path, take a look. I can go here and say stroke the path, and it takes the brush that I just set with that, and it's going to drag it around the outside. Dun, dun, and that's not really that noticeable, but understand that that's just the square. Okay, and I'm going to undo that, and I'm actually going to delete that path. Yes. Okay. And so you can do the same thing with the pen tool here. Okay. So I could go, and if I wanted to highlight Godzilla's scales here, I might want to click there to here and drag out that line. Remember the kind of the click and drag thing like the Bezier game? Now, since I'm on a path, that doesn't make, it literally makes nothing visible. It just makes a line that only I as the designer know is there. But then what I can do is take the black arrow, grab it. You have to have a back arrow. If you just a minute ago, what this looked like is this. So that way neither was full. You have to have the thing selected. So I select that thing, and then I can go here and say stroke path, and I can say, sure, the brush, or, if I go to the brush tool here, I'm going to make it a little bit larger, let's say 15. But when I stroke a path, so I'm just setting the brush up, or any tool, the eraser tool, anything, okay? When I take that path and I say stroke the path, what it's going to do is it's going to take the whatever tool I've got. You can see I can grab a whole bunch here, hit OK, and then it drags it along there. Okay, and in this case, see, it's wider at the top than at the bottom. So it's a nice line. I could never draw that with a mouse, right? So paths, the thing that we made earlier, understand that when you're drawing a shape, you're putting down with a pen tool, you don't have to just make these kind of geometric things. You can use those tools, both these, so like if I wanted to go here to the ellipse tool or the polygon tool, I can switch it to a path. And then that path, once I have that, I can then go to the paths palette and then decide, do I want to stroke it? That's pretty cool. Take it, it's a kind of a very nice way to control your pen. Or do I want to fill it or make a selection with it, right? And so, so that's nice. So for example, if I were to take the pen tool and draw the outline of Mechagodzilla, which would kind of take me a while, but then I could use that path somewhere else. Like silhouettes are hot in design. So I could take the path tool, draw the silhouette of Godzilla with the path tool. It'd be a lot of points, but I could do it. And then fill it in, and so therefore I would get the sort of silhouette. That would look nice. All right, so thing number one, as we go through this, think of not just the vector drawing tools, think of the other ways you can use the vector drawing tools either to control brushes and other tools or as a way to make selections. Okay, concept one. New stuff. All right, and I'm going to get rid of my paths. By the way, to get rid of a path, you just take the black arrow and click on it. Let's see if I can get rid of it. And then also when it comes to layers, like I put that in the background. So I'm just going to step backwards here and then put that down. Okay. And so now how would I do this? Well, the first actual design thing, I might use those layers, the paths later, but not right now, is I'm going to put my title down. All right. And so I'm going to pick my Kaiju Green. I'm going to pick the font that I installed, which is called Kaiju, H-I-J-K. Where is it? Kaiju Monster. And I'm going to pick a pretty big font to get started with. And in this case, I'm just doing a line across. Okay? And so, so I'm going to click once. Now, usually I'd click to drag out a box. I don't need to in this case. So I'm going to call it God. Whoops. See, and it's not, there's no spell check, as I said. Godzilla and his colleagues. Godzilla has been friends with both of these guys. Now you can see not legible, right? I can't see this. And also what I can do is I can put my mouse over. Now I could adjust the font size here, or I can put my mouse over it and I'll get that little finger and I can actually drag this so I can watch as it grows. Whoops, I have to highlight it. And I have to take this and I have to highlight it and make it larger. Okay, and I'm going to make my title there. Cool. Right now, not legible. Light green on white and light blue absolutely is not legible. Okay, and so we're going to switch over, and then we're going to switch over to another new concept, which is this thing called styles. Now, styles, really what you're doing, I'm going to take my layers palette and lift it up here. Okay, what styles really are is a preset effects. And while I have my type selected and do this, I'm going to click on FX down below, and there's all kinds of things I can do there. So for example, I might want to say outer glow to give it a little bit more contrast. Take red, and now I don't think I want it to be that big around the outside, but then I'm also going to increase the opacity so it's a little bit more solid. Hey, boy, that's pretty pink, Cheezo Pete. And so Darn, why is it so pink? Oh, blend mode screen. I'm going to say blend mode normal. Yeah, there you go. Okay, and so now that doesn't look great, okay, but there's some other ones. I might say, okay, I'm going to add a bevel, okay, on the inside. You can see what that does there, all right? And so this isn't what I would call A-grade design work, but this is what styles do. Play with it, okay? So you can get to them directly by hitting the FX at the bottom, or the other way you can get to a bunch of presets is if you go to the filter pull-down menu to styles, and you'll see all these nice, I'm going to redock layers for a moment. Okay, all these nice presets like that. That green one, that's not actually too bad, honestly, for Godzilla. That kind of is fitting, right? But when you add a style, you can see that really it's just doing the effects. If you look in the bottom right, it's just doing the effects that you can do manually with the FX at the bottom. Warning, some of these are cliche, kind of corny. Very few of them a real designer would include in their portfolio of these presets. A real designer would set their own. And also, don't limit yourself to just the ones that are there. I can go to the down arrow, say, oh, I want to take a look at text effects 2, and then append my list. Now look over here. I'm looking at most of them. But when I say append, what it does is it sticks a whole bunch of new text effects at the bottom for me to take a look at. All right, so don't limit yourself to just the styles that are there. Most likely you want to make your own by clicking effects in the layer palette. But basically this is how it's done. All right, and so now I'm also going to add a little subhead there. So I'm going to take black text. Now this is a decorative font. I really should never write anything that way. So I'm going to take the type tool and I'm going to use my main font, which I've decided is Futura. So if I want to get to it, a little shortcut, I can actually go up there and actually just type the name. So I'm going to do condensed medium, not so huge. Oh, I'm already on that one. Oh, and I actually should pay attention to what I have selected. Okay, so Godzilla's colleagues. I click off of that. Pow. I'm going to make, and now let me take the type tool and I will click somewhere else down here. And I'm going to type in Showa. Whoops. And then, and this is a kind of an example of font contrast. I don't want this to read the same thing, so I'm going to highlight this, make it Futura, condensed medium. I might do, let's see. Not bad. And then I'm going to make it definitely, oops. Great. Now that's a little bit too small, or too big, I mean. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. That's my subhead, and I'm going to pull that and kind of move it over here to the right. So that's the name of it. It's like Godzilla and his colleagues from the Showa series. And I might do a little overlap. That's the kind of thing that you will decide. Do you want to use a flat design? Do you want to use a lot of textures? Those kinds of things. So again, first thing is understand that all of those vector tools that we did on the first day, you can use to draw with the other tools by stroking paths, by using it as paths. And secondly, remember that you can also use them to make complex selections. That's the first new concept. The second new concept from this lesson is the idea of styles. All right, what you find under window, and experiment with those. Understand that they're just essentially presets of the effects you see, the FX down there at the bottom of the layer palette. But essentially styles are preset effects, but can be useful. Okay, the third new concept is in the layers palette. All right, now right now even, I docked that weird. I didn't mean to do that. Oh, I undid that. I didn't mean to do that. I hate when I do that. I did a weird thing over here, and then when I undo it, it undid it in here. So let me redock this where I want. See, and then the whole thing comes off. Oh, that drives me nuts. Okay, and so again, if this does this, I'm going to say workspace, reset the essentials, and go back. Okay, so I'll move my Showa series where it belongs right there. Boop. Cool. All right, now to make this easier, okay, I in no way like busy work. All right, so to make this easier, I am going to design one label, For the longest label, by the way, King Caesar or Mechagodzilla, I'd say Mechagodzilla is probably the longest word I'm going to do here. Okay, so I'm going to design one label and duplicate it. But even before I get started, I'm probably going to want to clean up my layers. So because I'm already at 3 layers plus effects, this layer list gets pretty long. So I'm going to say new folder. I'm going to call that title. I'm going to drag both of these layers into title. There they are. And I can actually click that little arrow there, and it kind of just cleans it up. You know, it just puts those away. And so now it's time for me to make my first label. Okay, and so I'm going to think about, well, if I want to label their names, that's real tough because it's kind of dark, kind of light. And so I might go, and remember I used a style earlier, well, maybe I'm going to take the rounded rectangle tool or the rectangle tool. I'll actually do the rectangle tool. And I'm going to draw a box where Godzilla's name would be. There it is. Cool. Now I'm on path, and I did that actually for a reason. Okay, I'm going to take the pen tool, and this is something we didn't do. I'm going to add an anchor point, and I'm actually going to add a couple dots onto this path here. Then what I'm going to do is take the white arrow, and I'm just going to kind of move them around a little bit. Like I maybe will take this one and pull it. Whoops. Let me zoom in so you can really see what I'm doing here in terms of surgery. Okay, so there's that I dragged a new box out, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I added some points. And so, you know, this is Godzilla, right? Like, it can't be perfect and square. So I'm just going to kind of make this, like, smashed up box. I grab it with the black arrow tool. So I have the whole thing there. And now what I can do is go to Paths, which is down here. You can see there is that path as a work path. It is selected. And so I can say fill, or I'll say make selection. Okay. You can do it a bunch of different ways. And then under layers, now I don't want to do it on the layer I'm in now, so I'm going to make a new layer. Okay, actually it wouldn't let me do it earlier. I should go to paths again. I realize why. You have to have you have to have a layer that it will work with. But what I can do is I can take that work path there, select it, and then say fill that path. It wouldn't let me fill it because I wasn't on a layer just now. So I'm going to fill it, sure, with my foreground color, who cares? Because now that I have this thing, I'm going to go to, guess what, styles again, because I've already, like, if you have these, that's what's nice. Oh, I one click, and then my label looks just like my title. Okay, now it can be corny, so just, or, you know, kind of cheesy looking. So, you know, again, this is more of a demo, but I'm going to make one label. There it is. Great. And so now I've got that. And I'm going to say this is label background. I'm just naming that layer. Then I'm also going to take my type layer, and remember Futura is my other font. So I'm going to write in Mecha Godzilla, and that's the longest name, I'm pretty sure. Now, I drew a text box here. I can't see it. I have to make it larger. That's what happens. Like, essentially means your text is larger than the text box, so it'll show you nothing. It's kind of annoying. And then I'm going to take that font and I'm going to decrease it enough that it will fit in here. A little too big. You want to keep things consistent. Okay, so Mechagodzilla fits in there, but I think it's still a little bit too big. You want to give it a little bit of breathing room at least. And so I'm going to take that stuff, go here and say, okay, I'm going to reduce this down. Cool, like that, let's say. All right, and now King Caesar, I think it'll fit. All right, so I make one of these. Right now, that's not Mechagodzilla, but you can see there's my label background and Mechagodzilla. Okay, and then I might even want to do an arrow. Okay, you know, I don't know. It's up to you. All right, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make not a new layer. I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it Label 1. And now I've designed those two things, and so I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put this in there, and so now what I've done is I've made this folder. Think about what I've got. I've got a folder with my title stuff. The eyeball can close that. I made a folder with label 1. Now, what happened to my words? Well, when I open label 1, you can see that when I was dragging them in there, whoopsie, okay, the idea is that I put the background over the text. So I got to take this, move it up, and so there it is. Cool. Now, the advantage of having this stuff in the folder, first, my layers palette's just a lot neater. But secondly, now I can take that whole group and say, duplicate the group. Okay, and I'm going to call this Caesar label. And then I'm going to take the move tool and I'm going to move it over. Okay, so I'm going to move this whole thing over here. And then now, obviously, that's not Mechagodzilla, so I just take the type and I'm going to go in there and say King Caesar. Okay, and so meaning, oh, I think I spelled it wrong. I think it's A-E. Okay, so what I'm saying is that you design one really good label and then duplicate it, but you had to design the label for the longest word, essentially. So that way, because if I designed it for like Mothra and they had to fit Mechagodzilla, it wouldn't work. You want it to be consistent, same size fonts, that kind of stuff throughout, right? And so I'm going to take Caesar label, and see how nice this is? Now I'm going to take label 1, which is actually the Mechagodzilla one. I'm going to put that over there, like so. And then I'm going to duplicate it again, because I need to get one for regular Godzilla. I'm going to say duplicate group, pal. I'll call it Godzilla label. And now I can take this. Remember, it's under the original one. That's sometimes it's confusing for new users. You paste something or duplicate something and you're like, where did it go? You know, because it puts it right under the original one. And then this I'm going to make into Godzilla. Okay, and then you have to think consistency. Okay, does it line up to the right? Does it line up to the left? That's the kind of thing you have to decide. Okay, so remember, the 3 things that are new is using the paths. Like, for example, I used the drawing tools to make a path. Okay, remember, so if you have something like the pen tool here, I'm going to make, you know, up here is where you do it. I make a path, or I can make a path with these tools. You stroke or select paths with the Paths palette, okay, right here, or fill them, okay, or use them to draw lines. So that's the first new thing. The second new thing is layers, that I'm using layers with folders. Hugely important with something. I made you label 8 things. This assignment thing you're looking at only has 3 right now. Okay, but you have to put 8 things on there, because that A is tougher to design to fit that much stuff in one, but second, because you're going to have a lot of layers, just to force you to work with a document with 30 plus layers most likely. Okay, and then third new thing is styles. Use these sparingly. Like a drop shadow is great, but most of these are sort of these corny Christmas Las Vegas pukey things. And so anyway, use those sparingly. Okay, and probably focus on the FX at the bottom. So anyway, so that is me walking through kind of the beginning stages. Again, we're focused on doing research at the beginning, find a good font, find a good color palette, a good image, pick something that you know about, right? And you'll have a lot more success. Okay, so plan accordingly, try to use these new tools, and then try to replicate some of the things I did in this video. Right? Then what I want you to do is give me a call if you have problems or want to talk about the assignment. All right? In the message, you'll have my FaceTime or Google Hangout address. And so if you need to, any point during the day, give me a call on FaceTime. I'm available all day in place of as part of our online lesson. And so if you just want to talk about this assignment in a little more detail, give me a video call, and I'll be more than glad to help you out. And if you're trying to figure something out and you're getting frustrated, give me a video call on your phone, because what that's going to allow you to do is take the phone and point it at the computer screen so I can see what you're talking about. And so again, after you watch this, pause it, maybe take a look at it again, replicate the kinds of things I'm doing, and then if you have any problems, absolutely give me a call anytime today, Thursday 10:06 or Friday 10:07. And if I don't answer right away, I'll give you a call right back on either on Apple FaceTime or on Google Hangouts. Thanks a lot. And if you've never used those, give me a call and I can help you just set it up or email. All right. Well, good luck, and I will see you all next Tuesday. Thanks.